Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Carving Up Live right here on YouTube Live and Twitter. I am Bryson Carver. As always, we've got a great show for you guys today. I always say this time of year, mid-March, is always my one. I wouldn't say it's my favorite time of the sports year. That'd probably be October for multiple reasons. You got the World Series. You got, of course, the NBA normally coming back around October, NFL and college football midseason. But mid-March is when we really start to see a great ramp up in sports. Of course, the Masters are next month. We see, of course, baseball starting in a few weeks. And March Madness is back, y'all. We got robbed of it by COVID last year. Of course, the pandemic, took the tournament as well as many other more important things away from us. But it's back, and I will predict the whole bracket, start to finish, the entire March Madness bracket. My Final Four and my upsets might surprise you just a bit. But I got to start with, and I talked about this a couple months ago, Drew Brees. Drew Brees officially retired yesterday from the New Orleans Saints and from the NFL, of course, and he will be moving on to NBC. We knew that this deal was lined up a year ago. I said on the show, even before the whole controversy last summer with Drew, that I believe this was going to be his last year. Got the deal lined up with NBC, and he had showed a steady decline. Like, we gotta be honest with ourselves in that outside of Brady, quarterback's age around this time, late, 37, 38, we see what's happening with Ben Roethlisberger. We see what happened with Phillip Rivers. He retired, and we saw it with Drew Brees this year more than any other year. Because obviously, we saw him struggle at times in 2019. He had the injury 2 games into the season on his thumb. Missed the 5 games. We all know Teddy Bridgewater went 5-0. But he comes back and plays pretty well up until the playoff game against Minnesota, where Taysom Hill looked like the better player on the field, believe it or not, than Drew Brees in that playoff loss to the Vikings, that second playoff loss in the wildcard game. I'm not talking about the Minneapolis Miracle. But then he goes into this season, and I said before the year, of course, I did, predict the Buccaneers to win the Super Bowl. But I also predicted the Saints would win the division, and I was right on both. And I picked the Saints because of the continuity between, of course, Sean Payton, Drew Brees, who I saw today, together 144 wins as a head coach quarterback duo, which is the second most between a head coach quarterback duo in NFL history to Belichick and Brady. That's pretty strong. I mean, that's when you compare it into arguably the greatest head coaching quarterback pairing of all time. That's pretty darn impressive. But as far as Drew Brees, how will I remember him? I will remember Drew Brees for 3 things. Number 1, he's the greatest overachiever in NFL history. First of all, we're talking about a guy who's 6 foot, barely. He might be 5'11 3/4, but who's counting? 6 foot tall. And he was really the first 6 foot quarterback to be great in the NFL. But that greatness did not happen right away. He's drafted by the Chargers in the second round the same year as LaDainian Tomlinson, of course, the second LT, and Drew's a good quarterback in San Diego back when the Chargers were in San Diego, and he has the shoulder injury, and doctors were like, yeah, I don't know if you should play football again, and Nick Saban in Miami, formerly the head coach of the Miami Dolphins, of course, before he went to do what he's done at Alabama, Nick Saban's like, hey, I want this Drew Brees guy. And the Dolphins doctors, work with him. They're like, he's not ready to play. And Nick Saban's like, okay, I'm out. And, of course, Nick Saban's gone to Alabama and won, I believe, what's he won now? 6 national championships? I've lost count. Anyways, back to Drew. So then he goes to New Orleans. Same year, Sean Payton. Sean Payton gets hired as the new head coach. Right smack dab after Hurricane Katrina. And we all know that, it was funny. The Saints were we looked at the Saints back then, 15, 20 years ago, as we do, say, the Jets. The Jets have been poorly run. They've kind of been hot garbage for the last, say, for a few years. They made the AFC Championship game back-to-back years. Outside of that, they've been borderline irrelevant. The only reason we really even talk about the Jets is because they're in the major media market in America, New York City. And of course, they and the Giants don't play in New York City. They play in New Jersey, but you get the idea. But that's how we look to the Saints. They were called the Aints. They were awful. Even they drafted Archie Manning. I believe Archie Manning, of course, the dad of Peyton and Eli, I believe Archie was robbed of a great career because, you know why? Man had no offensive line whatsoever. It's hard to find Archie Manning highlights on YouTube because if you Google Archie Manning Saints, a lot of it is him running for his life because he had no protection up front. And so Drew Brees, Sean Payton come in and consistently go the play. You know, how many years? I can't think of 1 year in the Brees Payton era where the Saints were a bad offense. I mean, really, because you know a lot of these years where they go 7-9 and miss the playoffs, their offense would be great. I remember, 2012, I think they went 7-9, and Drew Brees had an incredible season. I mean, I can't remember exact numbers. I know he threw for over 5,000 yards, which he did 5 times in his career. That's never been done before. But the Saints went, I think they went 7-9 that year because their defense was atrocious. And that was the case for many of the years up until the last 3 or 4 in New Orleans. So I'll remember Drew Brees as the greatest overachiever because 6-foot quarterback, major shoulder injury. And he comes in and all he does is he wins. Of course, he won comeback player of the year for coming back from the shoulder injury. 2-time offensive player of the year, all-time leader in NFL history in passing yards, all-time leader in the NFL in touchdown passes. Brady will pass him next year, but for the moment, he is first all-time. He won the Super Bowl against Peyton Manning in Super Bowl 44, where he won the MVP of that game. And of course, the last few years, even when he's, I still thought Drew was an elite quarterback until 2020. 2020, I saw a big decline, similar to what we saw with, maybe not quite as bad, but similar to what we saw with Peyton Manning in 2015. What we've seen with Ben Roethlisberger, what we saw with Phillip Rivers. Quarterbacks normally decline this stage of their career. Again, Brady is the biggest outlier in NFL history. The second way I look at Drew is the second greatest free agent signing of all time. He was the first. I thought he was the greatest free agent signing in NFL history, and the late, great Reggie White was the second greatest free agent signing in NFL history. And then it came this guy named Tom Brady last year, free agent, signed by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and in year 1, they win the Super Bowl, and they're going to be better next year. I'm going to discuss that a little bit as the show goes on, Tampa Bay. But for the most, up until this year, Drew was the greatest free agent signing of all time. And so you look at it, and that's unbelievable. The third way I'll look at him is he was unbelievable in the community in New Orleans. I mean, he was and is as beloved a figure in a city as any athlete in sports. What comparisons can I make? You could say Ted Williams in Boston. You could say, let me think, LeBron James in Northeast Ohio, the Cleveland, of course, LeBron's from Akron, but, Cleveland loves him. That's their hometown kid, right? Of course, he brought him a championship a few years ago. And that's, the Brees brought New Orleans a championship in 2009. And Drew said, by the way, in his Instagram post, which was a pretty cool post, is his kids are sitting there and they kind of announced that he's retiring. And then Drew Brees has the caption below it. And he says, I'm retiring from football. I'm not retiring from New Orleans, which is not surprising, right? The city loves him. His family loves it there. Again, he's got the new gig with Sunday Night Football with a Football Night in America, which is the pregame show on NBC to Sunday Night Football. But he's going to stay in New Orleans. That's not surprising. It makes total sense for him and his family. So we wish them the best. And even last year when the whole controversy happened, and I, as well as most people, were critical of him. It was like, man, we're in this turning point in this country. And it's like, man, you're going to say that. But what did Drew Brees do? Drew Brees did what any smart human being does. Realize he made a mistake and learns why he made the mistake and learns and gets better from it. And so, that just kind of shows you the individual he is. And so he's obviously a great human being. I don't even think it's a debate that he's a top 10 quarterback of all time. I have him around 7. Brady's the greatest ever. That's not even, we're not even going to talk about that. I think Montana's 2 behind Brady. I would go Peyton Manning, number 3. I would go John Elway 4, Dan Marino 5. And then 6, it's kind of a debate between, Favre and Brees. I would take Brees. First of all, Brees beat Favre in a playoff game. Secondly, Brees did not throw near as many interceptions as Favre. Secondly, health-wise, he was more, I know Brett had the long streak of games that he started, but, for the most part, health-wise, you knew Drew was going to be there and for the most part be 100%. And thirdly, you knew what you were getting from him emotionally. Brett wasn't necessarily the greatest leader in the world. Drew was a phenomenal leader. And so wish him the best in retirement, wish the best to his family as well. Again, the city of New Orleans loves him. Wish him the best at NBC. Not saying he's necessarily going to be the next Tony Romo or anything. That's a pretty, it seemed like every guy that retires, nowadays it's like, oh man, can you live up to Romo? Probably not going to be the case with Drew Brees and most guys, but I'm sure he'll have a great career at NBC. And I think Football Night in America, that's Tony Dungy's on there, Rodney Harrison, Chris Sims, who's not necessarily known for having a great playoff career or playing career, but smart guy, knows the game. And Mike Tirico is the host. So be a good pregame show. And so wish Drew the best in retirement, wish his family the absolute best as well. And have one of the greatest careers in NFL history, the greatest overachiever in the history of the National Football League. It's just a great story. So before I get to the tournament, let me talk about, NFL free agency is going crazy right now. We've had so many signings. Most notable, the New England Patriots. How about the New England Patriots? Bill Belichick getting aggressive in free agency for really, it's the first time I've seen Bill get aggressive here. He signed Jonnu Smith, who was a very good tight end last year with the Tennessee Titans, which makes, who are you going to go with? Jonnu Smith or Matt Lacoste? No disrespect, but come on, that's a pretty easy decision. So good signing by them. I don't know how to say this guy's name. Devon Godchow. I hope I'm saying his name right. Former nose tackle with Miami Dolphins. He's signing on a 2-year deal in New England. By the way, Jonnu Smith's there on a 4-year deal. Matthew Judon, 4-year, $56 million deal. They get an edge rusher. Then they sign Jalen Mills, solid corner, formerly with the Philadelphia Eagles, 4-year deal. Then they added, let's see, who am I missing? No, that's it. Okay. So 4 notable free agent signings, and keep in mind this from New England. They get Dante Hightower back. He opted out last year due to COVID. Patrick Chung is back. He opted out last year due to COVID. So New England's defense is going to be legit next year. And of course, you bring about Stephon Gilmore, who was only the defensive player of the year 2 years ago. So we can have our concerns about New England's offense, and there are still many holes to fill. Their defense with Belichick coaching, you know me, I don't think Belichick's I don't think he's the greatest coach ever. I don't. I think it's Bill Walsh. But defensively, Belichick might be the greatest coach ever defensively. So you got Belichick and that defense. Whew, that's tough. That's especially when you're going against a high-powered offense like the Buffalo Bills. And keep in mind about Buffalo, the weakness in their offense is the running game. All right, Josh Allen had an amazing year last year. Stephon Diggs had the best year of his career last year. You have some playmakers in the offensive side of the football, but it's the running game that's been Buffalo's issue. So you add a corner, you add 2 defensive linemen, and I we'll see what New England does in the draft as well. And of course, we know they signed Cam Newton to a $14 million deal last week. And I talked about the Patriots. I said, if Cam's coming back on a $14 million deal for 1 year, I could see this being a situation similar to the Miami Dolphins last year. You have the veteran there, but you draft a rookie quarterback. You're going to start the veteran for as long as you prefer and see what you've got in the rookie. And so I think they're going to take Trey Lance. I think they have the 15th pick. We'll see if Trey Lance drops that low. But I think 3 of the 5 quarterbacks are going to succeed in the NFL. One I question a little bit, but I still think he'll do well. Trevor Lawrence is going to be a home run. Let's not debate that. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time coming into the NFL out of college. You can compare him to Luck and Elway and Peyton Manning. I mean, this dude is special. We've known he was going to be the number 1 pick in 2021 for the last 2.5 years. I mean, he's unbelievable. The second guy is Zach. I forgot his name. The kid from BYU. Oh my goodness, I forgot his name. That's embarrassing. Anyways, let's go to Trey Lance, North Dakota State. I think he's going to work. Zach Wilson. I was thinking about it. Zach Wilson out of BYU. I do have concern the fact he's going to the Jets because the Jets might have messed up Sam Darnold's career, and we'll see what happens with him. Since Joe Namath, it's not like the Jets, they messed up Chad Pennington's career. I don't know if Mark Sanchez could have turned into something special, but the Jets might have messed up his career. So it's not like outside of name it, they don't really have a history of great quarterback play. So I am a little concerned there, but I've watched the tape with Zach Wilson, special talent. So if he goes to the Jets, I do have my concerns, but I still think he'll play well there. Third one is Trey Lance out of North Dakota State, same college as Carson Wentz. He had a good pro day recently. Like him, he's got a good arm. He's accurate. So I think he'll succeed. If he goes to New England, we'll see how it turns out. Got a good offensive coordinator in Josh McDaniels. They just got to add weapons. And I love that Belichick added Jonnu Smith in free agency. Love it. Add a weapon. Maybe could they make a trade and possibly land Kyle Pitts in the draft? Of course, that would make sense because Jonnu Smith and Kyle Pitts are two tight ends. But hey, why not? Kyle Pitts would be on a rookie deal. So, you can never have too many good players. I'd like to see them go get a guy like Kenny Golladay, who I think is underrated as anybody in the league. Thought he was good in Detroit, even without Matthew Stafford, he put up good numbers, and so I would like to see him go to New England. So they're they're absolutely a better team than last year. And today, I said on Friday, as recent as Friday, didn't know if they were a playoff team yet in the AFC. Now, I think there's 7 playoff teams in either conference. I think they're a playoff team today. Winning the division? No. Buffalo today, Buffalo's my favorite to get to the Super Bowl out of the AFC. Because now, the team that I think they will have to beat on the way to get there, the Kansas City Chiefs, we all talked about, they lost their 2 tackles last week. That was the issue in the Super Bowl. Well, they didn't get a tackle, but they did add Joe Thuney on a 5-year, $80 million deal to protect Patrick Mahomes. Joe Thuney's one of the best centers in the National Football League, so that's a really good signing for them. So Patrick Mahomes got to be excited about that. Looking across the rest of the NFL, Malik Collins was signed by the Texans on a 1-year deal, $6 million. And then a great signing by the Cleveland Browns, getting another elite safety in John Johnson, who had a great year last year with the Los Angeles Rams in that loaded secondary, Jalen Ramsey. So great signing by Cleveland. I still don't know if I would take the Browns to win the division today. I would give the edge to Baltimore. But hey, Cleveland's, the quarterback's still in a rookie deal, so they don't have to worry about overpaying Baker yet. That's going to be a story developing over the next year that you're going to have to really follow, because now that Dak's got paid, now the attention turns to the 3 quarterbacks from 2018. Allen, Jackson, and Mayfield. Josh Allen's getting the bag. Okay, a year from now, Josh Allen's getting that money. We'll see how much. It may in between Dak and Mahomes, possibly I could see maybe $42 million. Under this current salary cap, I can't see him getting more than Mahomes. I think Mahomes kind of set the market. Lamar Jackson, does he kind of sandwich in there between Dak and Mahomes deal? We'll see. And then Baker's tough. Talented, really accurate, solid arm. Feel like it's improved. Leadership, I have my questions about. I definitely have my questions about his judgment off the field. Although it has gotten better, it's not as bad as it was at Oklahoma when he was in college. But still, I do have questions. I have questions about his ability to carry a team. You don't want your quarterback carrying a team for a whole season, and he doesn't have to in Cleveland. They got a great running game. But if you need, the game against Kansas City, that thing's out there on a silver platter for Cleveland. I mean, Pat Mahomes goes out for the rest of the game, and Chad Henne's out there. And so it's a golden opportunity for Cleveland, and Baker really couldn't generate anything. I think they got 1 first down. Cleveland scored a touchdown to cut it to a 1-score game. I think they only got like 1 first down the rest of the football game. So that's, cause for concern, because I think they have the right coach in Kevin Stefanski. Clearly, they have a great running game, great offensive line. Of course, Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb back there. Improving defense. I would like to see them get another lineman to help out Myles Garrett and possibly go get a linebacker, maybe in the draft. But that's something to keep your eye out with Cleveland. So, and then the signing of the day. The signing of the day to me. The one guy I thought Tampa Bay was going to lose, Shaq Barrett. He's back. In part because Tom Brady restructured his deal. He's only going to count $6 million against the cap. So there's that. But Shaq Barrett is back on a 4-year, $72 million deal. So he definitely got his money. And that, he was very vocal about that right after the Super Bowl. Of course, he put up a great performance 2 weeks prior against the Green Bay Packers. And he was a monster along with JPP and Ndamukong Suh in the Super Bowl against Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City. And he said, hey, I want to get my money. It's my turn to get paid. And he got the money from Tampa Bay. I thought what was going to happen is Tampa, maybe Brady would restructure his deal, but they've let Godwin walk because he's more of a luxury, not a necessity. They still have Mike Evans. They'll re-sign Antonio Brown for a fairly, cheap deal. They have Gronk. They've got a Scotty Miller. They've got Cameron Bray. OJ Howard's coming back next year from injury. As far as weapons, Tampa Bay is not exactly short on weapons. I thought they'd let Godwin walk and maybe franchise tag Barrett to see if maybe you could get a deal done in the next year or so. That's what I thought was going to happen. But nope. Levante David's back. Chris Godwin's back, at least for 1 year in a franchise tag. And Shaq Barrett's back. So it goes to what I've said for about 2 months now. After the Bucs beat the Packers in the NFC Championship game, I said, regardless of what happens in the Super Bowl, Tampa Bay's going to be better next year. Because you get an off season, the system, guys are comfortable with Brady now. By the way, who the Saints going to start at quarterback? Multiple reports are saying Jameis Winston. I've always kind of liked Jameis. I think he's talented, but throws too many interceptions. So, can Sean Payton fix that? That remains to be seen. Atlanta's rebuilding, and Carolina's rebuilding. So the division is that's put that to the side. Tampa Bay's winning the division. But you look across the rest of the NFC, and it's just question marks everywhere. Outside of Green Bay. Green Bay re-signed Aaron Jones, which kind of surprised me a little bit. But they let their all-pro center, Corey Linsley, go. He signed with the LA Chargers today to help protect Justin Herbert. They let him go. I'm like, what are you doing? You got all this cap space. Why are you're just letting your center walk? Like, it doesn't make any sense. So, but Green Bay's still got a great offensive line. Bakhtiari will come back. They'll still be good there. Green Bay is their biggest threat. And I'm not saying that because, they're the last 2 teams standing in the NFC. Saints have a quarterback, question mark. You look at Seattle. Is Russell Wilson even going to be in Seattle next year? If not, 5 or 6 win team right there. San Francisco, can Jimmy Garoppolo stay healthy? That's the biggest question there. And can the team stay healthy? They just had injuries across all the way across the board this season. You look at the Rams. I think the Rams can possibly be the 3rd best team in the NFC. They got an upgraded quarterback. Again, they did just lose John Johnson in free agency, but they still got a loaded defense. They still got great weapons. Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods for Matthew Stafford. Great offensive line, great running game. Cam Akers was a revelation for the Rams last year. And so that's a positive sign. Who else? Dallas, great offense. Defense, I don't know about that. They'll be better than last year. It's hard not to be, but they can't stop Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady once they get to the playoffs. I'm just trying to think about other teams. Think about the NFC West. Arizona's not ready yet. NFC East, stop it. Even if Washington gets a quarterback, I can't see them. I know they competed with Tampa Bay in that one playoff game. They're not going to beat Tampa Bay. Let's see. Think about the NFC South, North. Chicago, if they get Russell Wilson, maybe. But Chicago's kind of in salary cap hell right now. So what are they going to do as far as moving their players around in order to get Russell Wilson? Because they won't really be able to surround him with talent. So I think they're, as far as cap-wise, they're in one of the worst positions in the league. And they're not even paying a quarterback big money. They're paying Nick Foles pretty well, but they can release him or trade him and not have to worry about that. So in the NFC, who's going to stop Tampa Bay? Like, really, who's going to stop Tampa Bay? Because I can't see it happening. They're bringing back the same team as last year. Like, I thought maybe they'd lose one of the 3: Levante David, Shaq Barrett, or Chris Godwin. All 3 are going to be back next year. And we hear, I talked about it on Friday. Tom Brady's been talking to OBJ about possibly joining Tampa Bay in a trade. We know he doesn't really want to be in Cleveland. So we could add OBJ. What? They could add Odell Beckham Jr., who I said it could be very similar to Randy Moss. Their first destinations, both Odell and Randy Moss, they're great. Randy's great in Minnesota. Odell's great with the Giants. And then their second destination, it's like, wait, where'd Randy Moss go? He's in Oakland. What happened? He wasn't near himself. Odell in Cleveland. Where'd the old Odell go? Randy goes to New England with Tom Brady and has arguably the greatest season of any wide receiver ever in 2007. I think he caught like 25 touchdown passes, which is absurd. You look at guys like who else? If Odell goes to Tampa Bay. So I think that's really interesting. We got one comment here from my man Barry Grant Jr. Thoughts on the Raiders getting Ngakoue. Like the signing. Of course, we all know he signed with Minnesota last year. That didn't really work out. He gets traded to the Ravens. If he can regain what he was in Jacksonville, then, we all know the Raiders got some real issues on defense, especially in the secondary. So they already had the Crosby kid Max Williams, I think it might have been the other guy's name. So they got a good pass rush. And certainly he makes them better. But I think the Raiders' real problems are in the secondary. I mean, I think the Raiders' season defensively was kind of all summed up by that play against Ryan Fitzpatrick, where dude grabs Fitzpatrick's face mask. He can't even see and throws a pass across the field down the left sideline, which is completed. The attack on the 15 yards from the face mask, and the Raiders' playoff hopes come to an end against the Miami Dolphins. So he's a good signing. I like it for the for the Raiders. But I don't know if he addresses necessarily their biggest need. I think he adds to probably the strongest part of a defense that isn't very good. So, but if he can regain what he was in Jacksonville, then yes, he absolutely makes them a much better defense. So let me get to March Madness. I'm going to spend the rest of the show talking about it. I can't wait for it because keep in mind. It's been 2 years since we've had this, and I opened the show to the beginning of the show saying this is March Madness to me is one of the three biggest sporting events in America. You got the Super Bowl is the granddaddy of them all. Everybody watches the Super Bowl, and then to me it's the Masters, number two. I mean, come on, man, it's the Masters. It doesn't necessarily have the same juice to it. Of course, we all wish Tiger the best. After his car accident, Phil is out of his prime. I know you got. Guy shares the same name as me. Shout out Bryson DeChambeau. You've got Justin Thomas, but man, Tiger and Phil just brought a whole different, energy to the Masters. As we have some new breaking news. We got some breaking news for free agency right now. Is the Patriots have signed another receiver? We got some breaking news. They have signed Nelson Aguilar to a 2-year, $26 million deal, according to Adam Schefter. So again, we talked about. That was New England's biggest weakness, not just in last year with Cam, but over the last 2 years with Cam and Tom. No weapons. That's why Tom Brady left and went to Tampa Bay, because it's weapons galore, right? Great tight ends, great receivers. And so you have Cam Newton, you give him Jonnu Smith, and you give him Nelson Aguilar. I love this, though, about the Patriots. Being aggressive in free agency, you got to do that in order to win championships. You got to be great in the draft and great in free agency. And this is very un-New England-like. They don't normally do this. And so I love it because, listen, you don't have Tom Brady anymore that can make, lemonade out of lemons, right? I mean, or he can make a gourmet meal out of nothing, basically. So I do like the signing as long as he was pretty good in Vegas last year. As long as he's not, as long as he's not Nelson Aguilar in Philly. He had one good year in 2017, but outside of that, he was struggled catching the ball. We all remember the meme where the guy, what was it? He was, I think it might have been firefighters, and they were saving people out of a building, and people were like jumping out of the building. Of course, the building is on fire, and the firefighters are out there catching them, and one of them's doing an interview. This is in Philadelphia, and he said, "We caught them, unlike Aguilar." And that became sort of a meme. So as long as the Patriots aren't getting that Nelson Aguilar, he can run. He's a good route runner. He gets open. As long as he finishes the catch, he's absolutely he's an upgrade over anybody they had. I don't care. Edelman, Mohamed Sanu, N'Keal Harry. I mean, I'll take Nelson Aguilar over any of those guys. And I'm sure throughout this week's going to be crazy with with free agency news. We got to see what happens with Deshaun Watson from here, with Russell Wilson, with Sam Darnold. I mean, there's Jimmy Garoppolo possibly. I think Jimmy's going to be back in San Francisco. I'm like 80% sure about that, but you never know. It's the NFL, which over the last year has turned into the NBA as far as the excitement surrounding free agency. So, that's all good and exciting. So let's talk about March Madness. See if I can get it here. Okay, I think I can see. There we go. All right, so starts on the first four is on Thursday, but the tournament really starts on Friday. Normally, the tournament, the first four is usually on like a Tuesday or Wednesday. I think it's on Wednesday, and then the slew of games start Thursday. It's going to start Friday this year. It's going to be not a little different. It's going to be very different. Of course, normally we're used to March Madness. Teams are all over the country playing in different venues, different arenas, and then the Final Four is at an NFL stadium. Well, in this case, it's in a bubble format. It's in. This got one more comment from Barry Grant. Bill's coming from. Yep, he is. They can't beat Buffalo. Though. I mean, they added back to New England Patriots real quick before we move on to the NCAA tournament. Listen, they upgraded on defense, and they're getting Patrick Chung and most notably Dante Hightower back in from opt-outs among other players. But they can limit Buffalo's offense. If Josh Allen continues to improve, I mean, every year Josh Allen's gotten better from the previous year. So if they can limit Buffalo's offense, it's up to New England's offense to catch in, which is what they did for 2 decades with Brady. Is great defense. You make one mistake and your season's probably going to come to an end of the playoffs because you give the ball back to Brady in that offense, and then they just ride the momentum the rest of the game in some freezing cold night playoff game in Foxborough. That's how it went for 2 decades. So, but yeah, I love that Belichick is being aggressive in free agency. But back to the tournament. In Indianapolis, Indiana, of course, one of the great basketball cities in the country. It's in a bubble format. It's gonna be in different venues. I was really interested to see how they do this because I knew they would use Bankers Life Fieldhouse, which is the home of the Indiana Pacers, for some of their games. They're going to use it in other venues. I think they might actually play some of the games in Lucas Oil Stadium, which is where the Final Four is going to be. So that's going to be very interesting to see how that all looks. But without further ado, enough of my rambling. Let's predict some NCAA tournament games. So starting out west, I believe. Do we have the bracket? There we go. Okay, so we've got it right here. Starting with on the top left, you can see Gonzaga playing either Norfolk State or Appalachian State. Gonzaga's undefeated. They're going to roll whoever they play, Norfolk State, Appalachian State. It don't matter. Gonzaga's going to roll. They'll move on to the round of 32. Let's go to Oklahoma and Missouri, 2 teams that I think are very interesting. 8-9 matchup. Oklahoma got off to a really good start this season, but kind of tailed off at the end of the season. But they did do enough to get into the tournament. And the Missouri, I have great respect for their coach, Konzo Martin. He's done a good job recruiting over there. I think it's close. I think it's one of the best games we have in the first round. I'm going to take Missouri to beat Oklahoma and advance to play Gonzaga in the round of 32. Let's go to Creighton and UC Santa Barbara. Of course, Creighton comes from the Big East, which, that and the ACC normally are the 2 best conferences in college basketball. Creighton's certainly a great basketball school. UC Santa Barbara, I'm sure it's for many teams, some of the lesser known teams. This is very exciting for them. But I think Creighton gets it done. They get the W. They move on to the round of 32. Let's go to Virginia and Ohio. What's funny about this is the Virginia Cavaliers are still the defending national champions. So from 2019, because we didn't have a tournament last year. So they've been the defending champs for the last 2 years. So I will have them winning this game and advancing to the round of 32 to take on Creighton. Let's go to continue throughout the West region. USC and Wichita State or Drake. I got Wichita State beating Drake, and I got Wichita State upsetting USC. Sorry to my friends out there in Southern California, but I got Wichita State. Great basketball program. I remember a couple of years ago, there were even discussions about putting Wichita State in the ACC. So clearly they're a great basketball school. I will take them to beat USC. They'll beat Drake. They'll beat USC. Move on to the round of 32. We have our first upset in my personal bracket. Let's go to Kansas and Eastern Washington. I'm going to take Kansas. I thought over the last few games, of course, they lost early in the Big 12 tournament, but I thought they outplayed Baylor down the stretch. They did beat Baylor in a big Saturday night primetime game. So I'm going to take Kansas to win easily over Eastern Washington, advance to the round of 32. Let's go to Oregon and VCU. Listen, VCU is one of the better college basketball programs that nobody talks about. Year in and year out, they're in the tournament. So with that being said, I got another upset. VCU upsets Oregon out of the Pac-12 to move on to the round of 32. There you go. Next up, final game in the Western region, Iowa and Grand Canyon. I'm going to take Iowa. They got Luka Garza. Another Luka. You got Luka Doncic in the NBA. You got Luka Garza, who has dominated college basketball for the last few years now. So I'm going to take him to lead Iowa to winning the West region. To beating Grand Canyon to move on to the round of 32. Let's see, what do we got? The East region, starting with Michigan, taking on either Mount St. Mary's or Texas Southern. I got Michigan rolling, either Mount St. Mary's or Texas Southern. Keep in mind, Michigan didn't play great at the end of the season. They did lose to Michigan State, who barely got in the tournament. They're actually playing in the first four, so literally, by the skin of their teeth, they got in the tournament. That being said, though, Michigan's a one seed. We're not going to see a situation like UMBC and Virginia back in 2018. Michigan will Michigan's going to beat Mount St. Mary's, Texas Southern easily. Let's go 25+ and advance to the round of 32. Let's go to the LSU Tigers taking on Saint Bonaventure. I believe that's French. I hope I said that right. I'm going to take LSU to win this game. I get it's an 8-9 matchup, but keep in mind, LSU beat Arkansas in the SEC tournament and lost to Alabama by 1. I watched that game. They could have easily won that game. They had like 3 shots at the game-winning shot. The first one got blocked. They had a good look for a putback off the offensive rebound, and then they had one final prayer off another offensive rebound, and had one of those shots gone in, they beat Alabama, who's a 2 seed. And so I got LSU winning, advancing to the round of 32 to play Michigan. Let's go to Colorado and Georgetown. How about them Hoyas? Georgetown kind of average this season. As a matter of fact, I'd say below average. And all of a sudden, Patrick Ewing comes in, and they go to the Big East tournament. They upset Villanova, and all of a sudden, Patrick Ewing leads Georgetown, his alma mater, of course, as we all know, in his home, Madison Square Garden, winning the Big East and clinching their spot in the Big Dance. So, listen, momentum in college basketball, especially going into the Big Dance, is huge. It is, don't underestimate it. It is huge. So I will take Georgetown to upset Colorado. Great basketball team, but I will take Georgetown, ride that momentum. Again, we're talking about the Big East here. They will upset Colorado, advance to the round of 32. Let's go down here to Florida State and UNC Greensboro. UNC Greensboro on their way to the tournament beat my beloved ETSU Bucks in the semifinals. They wound up winning the Southern Conference. So good story. Like some of the lower seeds out there, some of the lesser known programs. That being said, Florida State will get the job done, advance to the round of 32. Let's see. What do we got next? The South region. We got Baylor taking on Hartford. Not Harvard, Hartford. I'm going to take Baylor big. They were the regular season champs in the Big 12. The first time in a while, I believe. I think it's been like 20 years or something like that since they've won the Big 12 regular season title. They will beat Hartford easily. 1 seed versus 16 seed. It won't even be close. They'll advance to the South region. Going now here to North Carolina and Wisconsin. It is weird to see North Carolina as an 8 seed. It's even weirder to see Louisville out of a tournament, to see Kentucky, who was not good at all this year, out of a tournament, and Duke average at best this season, also out of the tournament. So the Blue Bloods of college basketball, and North Carolina's an 8 seed. They had to go on kind of a late season run in order to get in the tournament. So this is a funky college basketball season. This is really weird. But I will take in this game Wisconsin to knock North Carolina out in the first round and advance to the round of 32. Keep in mind about Wisconsin, they played in the Big Ten this year. You see they got 17 and 12 record. Big Ten was easily, by a mile, the best conference in college basketball this season. You had the Big East, you had the Big 12, which was really good. You had the SEC, which was solid. You had in the Big Ten, you had 2 number 1 seeds, Illinois and Michigan. You had a number 2 seed, Ohio State. Okay, you had another 2 seed in Iowa. So the Big Ten had 4 of the top 8 teams in America. And then here's lonely old Wisconsin at 9 saying we want our respect. And they will earn a little bit of respect by beating North Carolina and advancing to the round of 32. Let's go to Villanova taking on Winthrop. I will take Villanova to win this game. Again, I know they did lose to Georgetown in the Big East tournament. But keep in mind, Jay Wright, to me, is one of the 3 best coaches in college basketball. I think to me, the 3 best coaches in college basketball are Coach K, Jay Wright, and Mark Few. Those are the 3 best coaches in college basketball, in my view. So Villanova gets it done. They advance. They beat Winthrop and advance to the round of 32. Going now to Purdue and North Texas. Final game in the South. Excuse me, not the final game. It's the final game in this slide. In the Southern region, they take on North Texas. I'm going to take Purdue. Great college basketball school to advance. Again, we're talking about the Big Ten, which was by a mile the best conference in college basketball this season. They beat North Texas and advanced to the second round. Now going to the other part of the Southern region, you got Texas Tech, the defending, because of 2019, defending runner-ups in the Big Dance. They, of course, lost a great game to Virginia in 2019. They will take on Utah State. I will take Texas Tech. They're led by a kid named Matt McClung. And if you don't know who Matt McClung is, I'll put it this way. A few years ago, if you looked at high school basketball highlights, at least highlight dunks, 2 guys you saw, Zion Williamson, Matt McClung. Zion, because of, of course, his vertical is crazy, but the power, right? The monster in his dunks. I mean, it was crazy what he was doing on some of his dunks. His size especially. And then Matt McClung's this little kid, 6'2", jumping over dudes, windmilling, 3-6. I mean, he's crazy. His decision-making as a point guard is questionable. It is part of the reason he moved on, transferred from Georgetown and went to Texas Tech. And their execution late in some games has been questionable, but they're good enough absolutely to be in the tournament, no question about it. They'll beat Utah State and advance to the round of 32. Let's go to Arkansas and Colgate. Colgate was actually in the tournament a couple of years ago. They played my Tennessee Volunteers, another SEC team, in the first round. And as a Tennessee fan, man, I was sweating. I mean, that was not a comfortable game for me to watch. It was closer than you might have wanted it to be. I believe they were a 14 seed back then too, playing 3 seed Tennessee. They're once again a 14 seed. They're 14-1 this year, taking on 22-6 Arkansas. Arkansas, of course, lost to LSU in the SEC tournament. Very good basketball team, though. I'll take Arkansas to beat Colgate in a fairly close game. Arkansas will clearly be the better of the two. Arkansas, though, will advance, beat Colgate, and advance to play Texas Tech in the round of 32. Let's go to Florida and Virginia Tech. Florida got in the tournament as a 7 seed. Again, the SEC was very good this year. You had, of course, Alabama was the best by far. LSU was very good. You had Arkansas, Tennessee, Florida. Very good SEC schools represented in the SEC's represented well in this year's tournament. Taking on a fairly good Virginia Tech team. I'm going to take Virginia Tech in part because I hate Florida as a Tennessee fan. There was a dirty play in the SEC tournament. That's a long story. I will take Virginia Tech with the upset coming out of the ACC, which, again, we normally see the ACC and the Big East as the 2 best conferences in college basketball. Not necessarily the case this year, although the Big East was solid. Virginia Tech will get the upset, 10 seed over 7 seed, and advance to the round of 32. Ohio State, Oral Roberts, final game in the South region. I will take Ohio State big. over Oral Roberts and advance to the round of 32. Let's go to finally in the first round, the Midwest region. Starting off with Illinois and Drexel. Illinois had an incredible season, absolutely deserving of being a 1 seed, and they will beat Drexel to advance to the second round. All the 1 seeds, as is normally the case outside of 2018, will advance this year. Now we go down to a very familiar team in this big dance, and that would be Loyola Chicago. Of course, last time Loyola Chicago was in the big dance. They played Georgia Tech, or they didn't play Georgia Tech. They're playing Georgia Tech on Friday. Loyola Chicago, last time they were in the big dance. Of course, you all remember Sister Jean, the nun. And I believe she's 101 years old now. And so, she's still supporting Loyola Chicago. And last time they were here, all they did was get to the Final Four. They won in a buzzer beater against Miami. They broke my heart as a Tennessee fan with a game-winning shot with 3 seconds left. They won a nip-and-tuck game against Nevada, and they beat Kansas State in the Elite Eight. And then they gave Michigan a fight in the Final Four. So they've got, and by the way, this season, they were ranked. They were a ranked basketball team. They kind of hung around there in the high 20s at 22, but very good basketball team. Not a team you want to mess around with. And they will play Georgia Tech, and I believe they will win. They will win. They will advance to the second round. Loyola Chicago. Do we see another Cinderella story? Stay tuned for that. Next up, my Tennessee Volunteers, who I'm, of course, go off the screen here, repping today. Of course, Tennessee basketball lost a close one to Alabama in the tournament. They will play Oregon State. This game does scare me a little bit. Oregon State is a solid team out of the Pac-12. One of the only teams out of the Pac-12 to make it. I will take Tennessee in a close game to beat Oregon State. Tennessee has been up, and they've been down. They've got a lottery pick in Keon Johnson in their starting lineup, one of the best guards in the country. Certainly not the best, absolutely not, but he's one of the best. He had the dunk of the season against Georgia. You can go look that up for yourself on SportsCenter. The guy got a solid basketball team. Rick Barnes, of course, we know what he represents. He has struggled at times in the tournament, back when he was with Texas, and then now with Tennessee. I don't believe he's ever made it to the Elite Eight. Could Tennessee make a run to the Elite Eight? Again, stay tuned to find out, but they will beat Oregon State in a close game. And they will play either Oklahoma State or Liberty. No disrespect whatsoever to Liberty. Oklahoma State has the best player in America, in Cade Cunningham. They will advance to play my Vols in the round of 32. And this is where I have to come on the screen after at least this slide. Midwest region, excuse me. We've got 4 more games left. San Diego State taking on Syracuse. San Diego State actually is where Kawhi Leonard played in college. Great college basketball program. Against Syracuse, who certainly has a great history of their own. I will take San Diego State to win this game over Syracuse, advance to the second round. They will play either West Virginia or Morehead State. I will take West Virginia out of the Big 12 to win and advance to play San Diego State. Then we got Clemson and Rutgers. My gut tells me Rutgers, so I'm going to go with Rutgers. I got a lot of 10 seeds upsetting 7 seeds, so I'll keep that continuing. Could keep that going. Rutgers beats Clemson, advances to the second round. And then Houston has had an unbelievable season. I think they won in a buzzer beater in the tournament to advance to play UConn in the what conference do they play in? Is it Conference USA? I can't remember what conference they're in. They advanced to play UConn on a buzzer beater in the semifinal round. Great basketball team. They'll beat Cleveland State. Final game in the Midwest region. So now I was not able to get all the brackets up for my predictions from here. So you just got to go by what I'm doing here. I filled out my bracket on ESPN.com. And so in the second round, I got Gonzaga and Missouri, of course. I predicted that earlier. Out west, I will take Gonzaga to beat Missouri. Again, Missouri's got a really good basketball team. They've recruited well. Konzo Martin's done a great job. But Gonzaga's stacked. They've got at least 2 lottery picks coming out of the draft. Some might argue top 10 picks. So especially the young guard that they have. He's a freshman, really good player. So they will beat Missouri in advance to the Sweet 16. And they will play either Creighton or Virginia. Again, Virginia is the defending national champions. I will take Virginia to beat Creighton in a close game. I think it's going to be one of the better games we'll see in the round of 32. Virginia advances to take on Gonzaga. Let's go to Wichita State. I believe who would get the upset over USC. They beat Drake in the first 4, and then they advanced to play USC, and they would upset 6 seed USC to advance to the round of 32. But they will fall to Kansas. Again, Kansas got in a great late season run. They started off a little shaky. I believe they might have not even been ranked at one point. But then they came back in, and they looked like the Kansas of old. Of course, we all know Bill Self is a great coach. And so Kansas will advance to the Sweet 16. And then final game in the Western region, you got VCU and Iowa. Again, VCU, as I said, great college basketball program. They will fall to Iowa. Luka Garza is one of the best players in college basketball. Iowa's a great team, great coach. They'll advance to the Sweet 16. Going now to Michigan and LSU. I will take Michigan to beat LSU. I do think it will get uncomfortable. LSU is a good defensive team. It will get uncomfortable for Michigan, but they will advance to the Sweet 16. Again, can't say enough. Juwan Howard's done an amazing job there. Of course, NBA player, but we all know him best from the Fab Five. Back, Jalen Rose and Chris Webber and those guys. Great team back in the early 90s. Michigan will advance to the Sweet 16. I think they will overcome some of their flaws that they had at the end of the regular season and in the Big Ten tournament. Let's go to Georgetown taking on Florida State. I think Georgetown's Cinderella-esque run will continue. I got them upsetting Florida State and advancing to the Sweet 16 to take on Michigan. I think Georgetown gets back-to-back upsets. We see teams, they sneak in a little bit, and they sneak in the Sweet 16. This happens every year. So I believe they will do that. Let's go to BYU and Texas. Texas, by the way, I think they won their first Big 12 tournament in program history. I don't think they've ever done it before until 2021. Really good team, good guard play, but I believe they will fall to BYU. BYU advances to the Sweet 16. Let's go to UConn and Alabama. Again, UConn's a great program. They certainly, women's program gets more notoriety as, really it should. We know I saw, by the way, today that Gino Auriemma tested positive for COVID, so prayers out to him. He was not in close contact with the players, which is good. So it looks like they will be able to start their tournament coming up pretty soon. Again, I talked about on Friday the guard that plays for him, Paige Buchers, I believe is how you say her name. Unbelievable player. She is very talented. I definitely want to watch for her. I talked about Sabrina Ionescu before, who's a great player and is going to be one of the best players in WNBA history. I'm just throwing that out right now. By the way, the WNBA is celebrating its 25th anniversary. Just want to throw that out. Shout out to all the amazing women. But I believe Alabama will beat UConn and advance to the Sweet 16. And so we go to the South region. Baylor, Wisconsin. I will take Baylor to win this game. 1 seed, like Wisconsin, but I believe they met their match here in the round of 32. Baylor advances to the Sweet 16. Let's go to Villanova and Purdue. I will take Villanova to win this game. They are the lower seed in this one. But again, I would say, look, Jay Wright, he's got 2 national championship rings at Villanova. And keep in mind this, anytime you have 2 teams that are pretty similar in talent, the coaching always, even if one's got the slight edge, if the team that has a little lesser talent has the superior coach, they're going to win the game. And that's the case in this one. Purdue does have a very good coach. I like him a lot, but I will take Villanova and Jay Wright to advance to the Sweet 16. And they will take on Baylor. So then you have Texas Tech and Arkansas. Again, I think Texas Tech wins in the first round, but keep in mind, like I mentioned, their late game execution at times was questionable. And they're a young team, very well-coached team. That happens. But Matt McClellan's got to improve his decision-making as a point guard. I think that will cost them in this one against Arkansas. Arkansas out of the SEC advances to the Sweet 16. Then you have Virginia Tech, Ohio State. This one's a blowout. Ohio State's a great basketball team. They blow out 10 seed Virginia Tech and advance to play Arkansas. Let's go to the Midwest now. Illinois, Loyola Chicago. It's hard to say. Loyola Chicago, I don't believe we're going to see another Cinderella run, unfortunately. They will lose to Illinois, one of the best teams in college basketball, who most people, of course, have going to their Final Four. I will take Illinois to win this game pretty easily, too. Let's go to my Tennessee Vols taking on Oklahoma State. And I made that face sorry for the podcast audience. as I show my, repping my Tennessee basketball shirt. I believe our season comes to an end in the round of 32 because, as I mentioned, Oklahoma State's a good team led by a great player. Cade Cunningham should absolutely be the number one pick in the draft in the NBA in 2021. He is as talented and as skilled as any player in college basketball today. Oklahoma State will beat Tennessee and advance to play Illinois in the Sweet 16. Let's go to San Diego State, West Virginia. I will take San Diego State to advance to the Sweet 16, beat Virginia, and move on. Then you got Rutgers and Houston. Houston will advance easily. Going down to the Sweet 16, this is where it gets fun right here. We got Gonzaga and Virginia. This one will be tough. This will be a test for Gonzaga because keep in mind, I understand they're undefeated. I think they're 26-0 right now. By this point, they'll be 28-0. But they have had their issues. They haven't played anybody this year. They haven't played anybody. Virginia will be their first test at the ACC. It's close. Gonzaga wins. I think it comes down to the last shot of the game. Virginia has a shot, but Gonzaga is able to get a stop at the end, the Zags, and they win this game and advance to the Elite Eight and stay unbeaten this entire season. Again, no team since Indiana in 1976 has went through an entire season undefeated. Of course, Kentucky almost did it in 2015. They had a loaded roster with Karl Anthony Towns, Devin Booker, but they fell short against Wisconsin in the Final Four, which was a great game. Kentucky fell. Can Gonzaga be the first undefeated team to win the championship since Indiana back 45 years ago? That'll be interesting to watch. They will beat Virginia, though, in a close game to advance to the Elite Eight. Let's go to Kansas and Iowa. This is going to be a great game here because, again, Kansas has been on a roll here later in the season. They did lose early, or they actually were out early in the Big 12 tournament due to COVID problems. As long as they have those resolved, I believe they'll be Iowa, the higher seed Iowa, and they will advance to play Gonzaga in the Elite Eight. Let's go to Michigan and Georgetown. I believe Georgetown's Cinderella-esque run to win the Big East tournament, to get to the Sweet 16, it comes to an end. They lose to Michigan. Michigan's just a better basketball team. I understand Georgetown has the momentum, and that matters in March Madness. And I believe they will give Michigan a great fight. Michigan will advance to the Elite Eight and win the Eastern region. Then we got BYU and Alabama. I have Alabama winning this game easily. Again, they've got the I'm trying to remember the kid's name. He's up for Player of the Year up there with Cunningham. I believe Luka Garza. Quickerly maybe is his name. I can't. It started with a Q. Great player. They're a great defensive team. They've got an amazing young coach who was hired last season when they, of course, where there was no tournament. Alabama will beat BYU and advance to play Michigan in the Elite Eight. Going down, got an upset here. I got 5th seed Villanova upsetting 1 seed Baylor. Again, when the talent is close, and Baylor's a more talented team. Don't get this wrong. Baylor's a more talented team. Again, Jay Wright's one of the best coaches in America. If you have an experienced team, even against a young, talented team, I'm going to take Villanova to get this upset going to the Elite Eight. Because keep in mind, it's every other year. If you look at history, that Villanova wins. They won. Of course, we all remember the crazy buzzer beater shot in an amazing game against North Carolina back in 2016. I think they got beat the next year in the round of 32 by Wisconsin, if I remember correctly. And then the year after, they win the tournament in 2018, and every single game they won by double digits in that tournament. And then, of course, 2019, I think they lost in the Elite Eight, I think. And then, of course, last year there's no tournament. And so this year kind of counts as last year in a way. So watch out for Villanova. They will get this upset over Baylor to advance to the Elite Eight. Let's go to Arkansas and Ohio State. This is a close one. I will take Ohio State to win. Arkansas is a great team. Ohio State's just a little better. Came out of a tougher conference. So they're battle-tested. They're ready to go. They will advance to the Elite Eight to take on Villanova. Let's go to Illinois and Oklahoma State. Looking forward to this one if it happens, because you've got the best player against arguably the best team. And those games are always entertaining in the tournament. We've had players like John Morant, right, back in 2019 with Murray State, kind of emerge as oh, wow, this kid can play, and we see what John Morant's doing in the NBA. And so I could see this being kind of that come out party, like that breakout game for Cade Cunningham. But they fall short to Illinois, and they advance. Illinois advances to the Elite Eight, where they would take on either San Diego State or Houston. I'll take Houston to play Illinois in the Elite Eight. So then we go to the Elite Eight, 4 games to decide who goes to the Final Four. Gonzaga, Kansas to start. I will take Kansas. They'll upset Gonzaga. Gonzaga will be out in the Elite Eight. You know, I kind of have a saying once tournament time comes around. Whoever is the prohibitive favorite, don't pick them. It almost never happens that Duke in 2019, they were prohibitive favorite, right? Zion and RJ Barrett and who was the other kid? Cam Reddish, Coach K, right? And they fell short, I believe, against Michigan State in the Elite Eight. I think the same happens to Gonzaga. Of course, they're undefeated. So their undefeated season, their storybook season, ends in heartbreak fashion against 3-seed Kansas, and Bill Self gets the Jayhawks back to the Final Four. Let's go to Michigan and Alabama. This will be a heck of a game. This will be amazing. I'm going to take Michigan in a tight game. Alabama has the momentum going into this game, but again, I know Alabama's been on more of a roll late season, in the tournament than Michigan has. I don't know why. I just trust Michigan a little bit more in these situations. I understand the players. Players come in, they come out, but kind of that vibe around Michigan Wolverines basketball kind of stays there. We think of Alabama, we think of their football program. Let's be honest. And no disrespect to them, but they will fall to Michigan. Michigan advances to the Final Four. Let's go to Villanova and Ohio State. 5 seed versus 2 seed. I've got Villanova upsetting Ohio State, getting another upset, upsetting Baylor in the Sweet 16, and upsetting Ohio State in the Elite Eight to move on to the Final Four. And we finish off with Illinois and Houston. And I'll take Illinois to win a close game over the Cougars and advance to the Final Four. And this is what we've all been waiting for. Final Four, Lucas Oil Stadium, home of the Indianapolis Colts in Indianapolis. Don't know how many fans will be there. So obviously, it's a football stadium. Of course, they condense it. They can't play basketball on a football field. Or have a court the size of a football field, but you get the idea. This is going to be fun. Kansas, Michigan, the first game. I will take Michigan to beat Kansas and advance to the national championship game, where they went back in 2013, lost to Louisville. They went back in 2018 and lost to Villanova. So I don't know why. Some vibe. I understand they finished the season not the best. I don't know why. I just got a special feeling, similar to I had a special feeling with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and what happened. I'm just saying. I got a special feeling with this Michigan Wolverines ball club. I'm telling you, man, Juwan Howard's done a great job there. And so I will take Michigan to advance to the national championship game to take on either Villanova, who they lost to in 2018, or their in-conference rival, Illinois. And in this game, love Villanova. I'll take Illinois. I will take Illinois. I think they're a little bit better of a basketball team at this point in the game. This will set the stage for an all Big Ten national championship game between the Michigan Wolverines and the Illinois Fighting Illini. I don't know. However you say it. I will take in the national championship game, Michigan, Illinois. I will take the Michigan Wolverines to win the national championship game in 2021. Again, they went in 2013, lost to Louisville, heartbreak. They lost to Villanova in 2018, heartbreak. They get back, third time's a charm. Juwan Howard does what his Fab Five couldn't do, and that's win a national championship. They beat their in-conference rival, Illinois, in an all Big Ten national championship game in what I think will be a great tournament. I get it's going to be a little different this year. No fans. I understand that. But I think we're in for an outstanding tournament. And here we go. Can't wait for it. Again, it's my third favorite sporting event of the year. Or I would say it's my third favorite. I think it's the third most important. Super Bowl's everybody's favorite, right? My personal second favorite is the NBA Finals. But I think the second most important is the Masters. And then, of course, you have March Madness, which it was already crazy in the conference tournaments. Lord knows what it'll be like in the big dance. So it's going to be a fun tournament. I got Michigan winning it all. I have Gonzaga, the team everybody's picking. Again, I always say don't pick the prohibitive favorite. Don't do it. It never works. So I think Gonzaga will lose to Kansas in the Elite Eight. So that's the most notable upset. So, and I got Villanova getting to the Final Four. I just got a special feeling they're going to get there to the Final Four every other year. They make a run, and I think they'll do the same this year. And so, it's going to be a fun tournament. So with that said, that is all the time we have for today's show. Thank you guys so much for stopping by. By the way, some breaking news also in NFL free agency. Rob Gronkowski is staying in Tampa Bay. Not surprising. 1 year, $10 million to stay with his good buddy Tom Brady. And so we'll get some weird Instagram videos this season after some playoff wins, I'm assuming, for the Tampa Bay Bucks. And so there you go. Great way to end the show. Hope everybody has a great week. Join us on Thursday, as always, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 3 p.m. Pacific, right here on YouTube and Twitter. Stay safe. God bless you all. Peace out.